Alrighty, so I think we're going to get started now. So welcome everybody. So I just want to say that I hope you all had a great day and thank you all very much for attending our event this evening. I want to say a special thank you to anybody who submitted questions and obviously a warm welcome to you all and especially our panelists because without them this event would be really weird. Okay, so we're just going to start off with a very important thing. So we're just going to acknowledge the people of the Kulin Nations as the traditional owners of the land on which Monash University resides. I would like to pay my respect to their elders past, present, and emerging. And I would also like to extend this acknowledgement of country to the traditional custodians of the various lands on which we are meeting today and any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people participating in this meeting. So I'll just start off by introducing myself. My name is Renee. I'm an events officer with Diverse IT, and I will be your host for this evening. Before we get into the panel, I just wanted to introduce our society and who we are. So Diverse IT is a support network developed by students. We aim to facilitate a culture of inclusion and diversity within the faculty of IT at Monash. And we hope to make an impact on underrepresented students within IT by connecting them with industry, faculty, and each other. So just getting into the meat of today's event, we're going to be following a fairly standard panel structure with the notable exception that in the last half hour, you'll be placed into breakout rooms to get some dedicated time to talk to our speakers directly. So before I introduce our fantastic panelists, I just wanted to give some background into the theme of this event, Women in Diverse IT. So when we were conceiving this event, we wanted to ensure that it was informed by the principles of intersectional feminism. So intersectionality was coined by Professor Kimberly Crenshaw in 1989, and it was used to describe the experience of people who exist at a crossroads of more than one minority group. So it was initially used to highlight the experience of Black women in the US who suffer the compounded effects of racism and misogyny in a way that is really unique to them. Since then has been picked up internationally and is used by many as a way of describing the complexities of their experiences. So making that a little bit more tangible for everybody, for me personally, when I look at my future in IT, I understand that I may face some challenges because I'm a woman, but in addition to that, I'm also mixed race, I am bisexual, and I am autistic. So each of those minority identities adds a layer of complexity to my experience and thus more potential challenges. So when we frame a feminist conversation around the issues of gender and misogyny and around gender barriers, we need to also acknowledge the other factors that can increase these, like race, disability, and sexuality. So with that principle in mind, we targeted this event to try and highlight the similarities and the important differences in how women experience the IT industry and move this conversation away from the monolithic representations of women in IT that we often see. So that brings us to our fantastic panelists. So up first, we have Aldaida Aleti. So Dr. Aleti is the Associate Dean of Engagement and Impact for the Monash Faculty of IT and an accomplished researcher in the fields of AI and software engineering. So a truly global citizen, Aldaida has completed her undergraduate degree in Turkey, her master's in Albania, and finally her PhD here in Australia. So as a member of the IT faculty for a number of years, Aldaida brings a wealth of experience as an educator and a leader, as well as a researcher. Next, we have Catherine Ma. Catherine is currently a teaching assistant and project supervisor with the faculty at IT. Throughout her career, she has worked across a number of industries from energy to finance and now higher education. Catherine is also a student mentor with the Project Management Institute and as such is well positioned to discuss how diversity is being handled in industry. And last but certainly not least, we have Renee McMillan-Tolley. So Renee obtained their Bachelor of IT from RMIT and is now a Scrum Master and full stack developer at Accenture Australia, where they oversee a team of 5 people. Renee's impressive academic career includes being the head of innovations and operations manager for the RMIT CSIT Society. And as a relative newcomer to the industry, and a fellow member of the LGBTQIA community, she provides a valuable insight to the current state of diversity and inclusivity in IT. So that brings us to the start of our panel, and to all of our attendees, please feel free to post any questions you might have in the chat, and we will do our best to ask them to our speakers later on. But without any further ado, we're going to get started. So if we've got everybody here, yes, good. So I might pose our first question to Aldeda. Do you mind telling us about your early career and if you faced any barriers when you were entering IT?
Thanks, Renee, for the introduction, and very excited to be here. I think I have a lot to learn from everybody, from the experiences of everybody, and also in particular for my own research. Being here is very important because my research is in the area of testing AI systems for fairness. And as we know, there have been some interesting stories about how AI has made some sort of unfair decisions, such as when it's used for CV classification, and when it's used for different kind of the compass story and so on. So that's an example of how AI can learn from our own biases and then make biased decisions, and that's quite an interesting research area for me. So I think from the research perspective, I'm quite interested in these issues, and my own experience is quite limited. You showed that very the picture of intersectionality, and I'm only part of it, ethnicity, probably that has impacted my experience, and that's where my experience is in. So as you mentioned, I'm from Albania, and then I studied in Turkey, then was a little bit in Germany, and then came here to Melbourne to do a PhD. It was interesting because Albania, although it's a poor country, the ratio of women in IT is higher than men in IT. So, this perception of IT is something that's not for women. It doesn't exist there, so it's kind of, whereas here in Australia, we have only 23% of our students are women. So yeah, just looking at kind of gender in this way, of course, gender is more kind of complex and diverse. Yeah, so did I face any barriers? I guess it's kind of hard to say often, because when you're experiencing it, often it's really hard to kind of understand that there are actually barriers, because others probably don't have those barriers, and often it's really difficult to tell whether those barriers exist. So I'm saying this because many of you probably don't perceive barriers, and I had PhD students that would think there's no discrimination in IT in terms of, I'm talking here from the gender point of view, and I could see it, that it was happening, and I could see it, but she was not perceiving it. And so it exists, it is there, and often people that are experiencing it, often may not perceive it as such. It is harder for them. Those barriers exist, but it's quite difficult for everybody to quite understand those barriers. And I think what's important is that we educate. We educate ourselves, first of all, but also we educate our community about these issues. So yeah, I'll leave it there.
Oh, thank you. That was, there's so much to that response. Renee, you looked like you were really engaging with that, so I might throw it to you next.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that, and especially looking at the angle of AI, because my current team is in AI ops, and I work with a chatbot, and so we've seen a bit of that come through. But it is absolutely right, and I think you can see unconscious biases come through in quite a few ways. Originally, I was from a farming background, and that's, of course, a very different environment to academia. But even going through university and going into the workplace, sometimes I kind of butt heads with people that have, I think it's more the idea that if what I am doing is right and I'm seeking out people who look and act like me, then surely those people must be right too. But usually that's like your male managers who might be white, might not be, who don't really have a pride background. And so they're kind of intuitively seeking out people who look and act like them. And then you're trying to say, well, I think the opportunities aren't being spread around. And especially when you're kind of new and very young, kind of getting that voice out there and listening is a bit different. So I've changed teams a bit within Accenture. I think we have a lot going for us. We have 50-50 hiring policy. So at least within my division, I constantly look around and go, wow, I am surrounded by women who are absolutely, like, they're so great at what they do. They're constant role models surrounding me in ways which I didn't find in my degree, which is nice. And we have a lot of trans inclusive policies, but that still doesn't help that I find we get top-down support for diversity and we get bottom-up support for diversity, because we get a lot of young, fresh minds who go, yes, we know what it's about. And you kind of got a slog of middle managers. My company has 600,000 people and we're across many, many, many different countries. And so sometimes getting through the middle management slog of old guys can be a bit different, I think. So there's a lot we're doing right, but there's certain areas I would pick out and say, like, I don't know what academia is doing, because I look at my degree and go, how am I surrounded by so much diversity now? And these great people and these amazing ladies and these amazing pride allies and these amazing people from all these different cultures. And where were they when I did my degree? And also, why wasn't the support there, or they found that they couldn't connect, or they couldn't make it through the degree, or yeah. And I think that's another issue to face, but hopefully it's not happening as much at your uni, but it was one area to find.
No, and I really appreciate the really great overview that you've given there of all the different areas that you've interacted with diversity issues. Catherine, I might ask you as well, just to tell us a bit about your early career and if you faced any barriers while you were entering IT.
Right, so I'm a classical experience that I think it just, I have this classical experience that probably some of you might actually also have a similar experience, that which actually I started actually in with an arts background. So I basically transformed myself from, graduate from Bachelor of Arts in English Education to came to Australia, like this is my 20th year in Australia, to do my master's degree in business with Melbourne University, and where I transformed myself into really merging into this Australian culture that essentially, so sort of after, about 10 years of work, like in Australian industries. So I have actually just roll up sleeve, really build up the knowledge in how to really understand how to operate in the, corporate world. But I worked on like different sizes of transformation project that predominantly, like Renee mentioned about, in utility energy sectors, but also worked, had exposure, worked in some large scale financial project, which, relates to the asset management system. So I guess that what I discovered myself in working with different people, in particular working both in finance and energy sectors, actually I faced in a challenging situation about adapting to Australian culture, and in the sense that I'm facing lots of very male-dominated environment. I found initially very uncomfortable to work within. So I have to really come out of my own comfort zone, and then finding out a way to, improve my communication techniques, and also to build up really allies, so I can actually survive in a very tough environment. But through this journey, I've successfully managed some difficult project, which has actually failed by local Australian. So the manager saw my potential as working on some, making really great improvement in some difficult project I can actually manage through to their successful completion. So I built up my reputation from, a guinea pig, and stepping into the industry. I have no knowledge about distribution system. I have very minimum understanding about the business process. To one stage, I've actually like shined myself and then really provide lots of, I guess, lots of adding value activities, and also make some tangible improvement through multi-different cross-functional teams within the organizations. So that sort of give me really good, made me feel really like I actually have the potential, I can make it happen. So I transformed working through business projects which are technology delivered, and moved into the IT teaching area. So only like most recently, like 3.5 years ago, when I started with the Monash. I guess my inspiration came from the people I worked as a volunteer with the Project Management Institute. I have to say thank you to the mentoring manager, Anna. She's not here with us, but and also the peers that I've met, some fantastic people. I personally enjoyed, benefit a lot from the mentoring partnership. So about 10 years journey, I have received really good mentoring coaching from, my sort of mentors, industry mentors, as well as also I return all my, try to contribute to coach actually RMIT student, which I started last year for the STEM student, which was really successful. The student feedback is really fantastic. So I guess how I see myself transform from educational background person to, really working in a corporate business woman in another sense, to really, to forming the really alliance, a really good working relationship with peers that predominantly male dominant environment. So try to convince them that, we as a woman, me as a woman, can actually make positive changes that actually influence a lot of people, and also women, in particular the women who are, like, for example, I coach a student from India background, and also local students who actually can see the things more differently. So I guess the technology, on the technology side, I'm really excited to utilize the, embracing the technologies that I believe that really drive excellence, and also challenge the status quo, and raise really awareness across of the equality, as well as diversity, among organizations. Also really promoting, let's look at taking a riskier, some healthy risks. Then, so enabling the people from different backgrounds to take, the relevant responsibilities, then we can actually capitalize on this diversity, and then we can improve the, promote really diversity, and then transform that into tangible benefits for all. So I guess my journey is, in a nutshell, is just quite interesting to my surprise, but I will continue my journey of teaching at the moment. Hence, really drawing on my experience, also keep learning, I guess, technologies, then I can bring the best of the students.
Yeah, thank you. That's, yeah. Yeah, that was a really, really great overview of everything that you sort of progressed through. I might actually throw it back to Aldada for a moment, because I'd like to hear about your sort of progress through your career. And do you think that the challenges that you may have faced, do you think that they've improved or changed as you've progressed?
So thanks for the question. Quite a big question, because I need to think now of how many years, 20 years or something, or when did I graduate? I graduated in 2001, my undergrad. So that's how old I am. So have they helped me, the challenges? Definitely, but also I think I'm kind of, now that I am in a position where I can make a change, I'm trying to remove those barriers in whatever way I can, because, although of course challenges and help us, become stronger, definitely. But we need a more equitable world where everybody we're different. So we cannot have, like, in a way, equal everything, but we can have an equitable world where everybody has a fair chance of achieving things. And I just wanted to pick up on the point that Catherine mentioned on the importance of diversity. And it's not just creating these equities for the sake of fairness. I think there is having a diverse team, is particular in the area of software, either IT, computer science, software engineering, is important. And we've heard this many times, diverse point of views and all these, it's of course, but often we think of, and I'm going to take, and this is an area probably that I don't understand as much, so forgive me if I'm kind of maybe not putting it in the right way, but when we talk about disability, for example, we think of it as disability, as a lack of ability, and then, we need to change our world in a way so that we can make it kind of fitting for people that are disabled. And that seems as if we need to retrofit a little bit our world, and think of, for instance, disabled toilets. They are just bigger. They are kind of similar to our own toilet, but they're just bigger. So often we design the world around us in a way that will only kind of, without taking those diverse point of views from the start, it's kind of the majority designs the world, and now let's kind of retrofit it for the marginalized, kind of the minority. Whereas we can take the minority from the start into the table, and then we can make a better world for everybody, because people with disabilities, they have more experience than us in kind of dealing with much larger challenges than we have to. So they can bring us in a much broader perspective, a much more sort of help, different points of view that can make the world much better for everybody, not just retrofitting it for that minority group. And that's why I think, even when it comes, and Catherine was talking about also, how she found it really difficult initially to fit in, and then, she had to sort of fit in, but why not kind of from the start, consider that as an important point of view, and then everybody sort of, it's not about sort of fitting in, but it's about, us kind of working together to, not just kind of, you need to change to understand my point of view, but let's discuss together and understand each other's point of view. So I guess I kind of didn't answer your question directly, because it's also quite a difficult question to answer. And I think yes, challenges help us, but we shouldn't have more barriers for certain people. So I think that's not, we need to kind of try to remove them as much as we can, and with whatever we can do to change those barriers. Does that kind of answer your question, Renee?
Yes, definitely. And it actually leads really well into our next question, which I might pose to Renee off the bat, which is that there is a common assumption that just having diverse teams produces inclusive products. So has that actually been your experience in industry?
It's a really good question. I'm just going to think about that one a little bit. I think definitely in my most recent team, it has. There are, and also that within the company, there's something which, when you kind of get on board, and you of course get a lot of trainings, and there was one point they pointed out to me, which I was like, oh, that's a bit cold to point out, but I think it's good they do it, because I've also heard people say this, but it's that when you have diversity on your teams, you end up being more profitable. Not to say that money matters, but definitely I've heard people say, oh, why would I do it unless there's money? But when you have more diverse teams, it means you are making it more inclusive for the wider group, in the same way as Aldada was saying. Within my team, we take a lot of time looking at usability. And I think having diverse teams means you're more likely to have people in those teams who speak out and say, is it usable? You know, sometimes I guess in my division, because we're very dev heavy and it is a little bit of a bro culture, we are aware we're trying to fix it. But then that leads to a lot of guys saying, oh, but technically it's really competent. Look at this code. This code is so clean. And then you go, but can you use it? Can someone pick it up and know what to do with it? Have you made this accessible, or have you given it font size 8? And so now people who have low vision and vision difficulties can't use it. Have you given, 50 million words in it, and now people who, like just aren't ready, can't focus on this correctly, or have, have you made a form with a 5-minute timeout, and now someone with anxiety gets freaked out filling out your form? So yes, within my team, we have a really strong focus on diversity. Yes, I have been the one who's pushed for it sometimes. We once were doing a user feedback session, and my boss at the time said, he organized a guest list of people to come in and test the product. And I kind of leaned over and said, oh, hey, isn't this all middle-aged men? I know that there are women that use our product. Can we get them in? And he said, oh, why? And very luckily, other members in the team were just like, hey, they've got a point. But if I wasn't there, then yes, that would be the sort of culture that just kind of like feeds into itself. And you need to slowly filter enough people in that not only can they generate that culture, but also you're visibly making it known that you have a good culture, and then you get more diversity, because people say, great, if I go there, I will not face difficulties that I would if I was the only woman in this space, you know? I think culture is so important to go to companies. So yes, absolutely, because discussions will happen that wouldn't otherwise happen if there wasn't that diversity.
Yeah, I might actually also include Catherine on this conversation, because she's currently teaching me software development. So, what is your take on this question, that having diverse teams produces diverse products?
Right. So my key stakeholders are students, obviously. And also I have worked with very complex stakeholder groups, like my chief examiner, and then, sometimes we have the dependent unit, like I also have a technology lead, as well as the technical mentors that I work in partnership with. So I see during managing, I guess, the diversity that coming from two ways. So one way is directly I'm interacting with my student cohort. On the other level, the layer is more I'm actually working very collaboratively with my tech mentors, because I'm actually a business mentor, and as well as my chief examiner and my teaching team. So the diversity, I see a huge benefit that coming from our teaching cohort, which that, I sort of came up with a process improvement, I guess, really try to strategize how can we as a teaching team can improve students' experience, given that we do have women actually studying in IT. It is still not majority. So how can we actually encourage not just male, but female students also to speak up? And then the process improvement that what I have putting forward to really ensuring that my voices as a like a teaching assistant associate can be heard by my manager, as well as I encourage my I sort of using whatever Slack channels or all the most efficient communication channel to let my team or my business mentors who I partner with as well, to know that we can capitalize on really how we can have deliver the best approach to our students. So this is sort of really, I wanted to instill the continuous improvement in how we, because we have a more than 50% like mentors actually are women. So in the IT units. So that's really, in particular, the industry experience project that I'm working on. That's last year cornerstone unit for the students to actually before they graduate. So on the other side of the student's story is that through the unit, we as a teaching team, I ensure that students understand the key elements of a social contract. So these are the behavior bonding contractual terms that they all should be adhered to. So this including male and female, right? When they were allocating the team, so we try to try our best to ensure there is a good mixture of male and female students. So because according to the research, this is actually yield the best benefit for our students. So, and this allocation allows, when students are assigned to the team, they can develop their own social contract terms that will be suitable to their own team needs, addressing this diversity, addressing the voices from women, men, and also like intersectionality that Renee talked about before. So I think this is a great, actually one of the key elements that for a student to be able to work in a team and then to drive very, the excellent result throughout their, the journey mapping. So to develop their software product. And on the other side, from collaboration perspective, we also have a product owner, for example, introduced, which the coaching teaching team have actually been like for myself, play a conduit between the product owner and also the student teams. So how are we going to play out, making sure both voices are heard from both ends? So the student teams, so the project teams can deliver exactly what is expected from the product owner perspective. So without understanding the needs from both sides, it's really hard to reap the most benefit. So I guess my message here is to, really to enable effective teaching, deliverables from student side for the final product, software product. So we need to really implement a process-driven, these methods to ensure the system thinking approach has been integrated into student deliverables from, iteration to iteration, and also really oversee, instill the diversity key elements in terms of balancing the need within the team. And then they can drive, when they have a deliverable, they can think about usability perspective, how can the system addressing the people who have disabilities? Like I think both Renee and Adada mentioned about a few key points on this. So this is the product that doesn't exist without really considering your end users. So student design something, most importantly, is a practical and is cover the whole needs, a range of needs from the end users. So I guess the essential message is that teaching is arts. So we ensure the student can do the best they can to understand themselves, the end users, and so they can develop the best part that they can.
Thank you. So on that, I think I'm going to open up to our Q&A portion of the evening and get a few more questions coming in. So I might actually just start off by bringing up here the conversation that's happening in the chat. So for anyone who wasn't reading that, then Nilla asked Renee, following up on how you pushed for a more diverse test group with your boss, how would you suggest we can approach a lack of inclusive practices in middle or upper management, given the power imbalance, especially if you're in an entry-level role?
I was trying to separate out, I think, clear ways or aspects which you can take apart and say, yes, I think this will help. I kind of addressed just then in the chat as a first part that personally, when I got some pretty demotivating feedback relating to my sex and my ability to speak out about injustices I was witnessing, I actually left the team. I essentially started pushing to move to my current team, and I was very direct about that. I just kind of said, listen, if this is happening, I don't think that I want to try to stay here for 10 years, work hard, change the culture from within. It's technology. We totally can either shift within our company, the 600,000 people here, I'm sure someone's going to be good, or just leave the company and go somewhere that's going to respect your skills. So one of my solutions was to do that. But now that I'm in a team that is willing to respect and listen, like even though the manager didn't get it, he was still willing to listen to me and for me to go, okay, here's some names. We're going to add them to the meeting. Okay, here we go. So I think that's good. And also over time, you will meet people in higher management who honestly also believe in the benefits of diversity, and they will also be your champions. The head of my tech, like, I'm kind of half in, half out of the grad division, but the head of the grad division is a very prominent trans lady. She is stunning. If you go to her and you say, you know, I'm having this issue, this isn't right, I'm feeling stressed at work, I'm feeling like I'm not mentally well, she'll go in and fix it. She's just like, no one, no one believes my grads. And not only her, but we actually have a very large number of managing directors across the company who are trans, who are diverse, who are, you know, a variety of things. So I think finding those people, finding those niches, understanding when sometimes a culture might need so much work that you specifically might suffer more from trying to push every day to change it than just hopping somewhere else. That's maybe not the best solution. I think don't do it too much, but maybe do it once. And cultures where there are minor issues, maybe you can find some managers to help you out. Maybe you can talk about those benefits, because there really is a lot of science behind happier teams, less attrition, less people leaving your team, more product income coming in just from having more diversity. So there's always going to be science saying diversity is the right thing to do, and you can definitely bring that to your higher ups.
Yeah, no, that's definitely very, very valuable insight, especially about self-preservation in those sorts of situations. Yeah,
for sure. I think oh, sorry, I'm going to go out a little bit, but something that I think I see in IT, especially with women or minority groups, is they do to some extent fight harder to be sometimes the most qualified in the room. That's why there's such high rates of imposter syndrome. And, you know, I'm in this friend group of absolutely talented ladies. They ran IT clubs, they got HDs, like really great marks. And they're just like, should I apply for this internship? What if I'm not good enough? And it's like, we need to somehow work around this thing that you need to be the toughest of the tough to get through STEM fields. And maybe you can just be okay at it. Like some of the guys, you can just do it because you think it'd be fun.
No, I completely agree with that. I think there's a lot of power to be harnessed in just female mediocrity.
Exactly. Exactly.
I think Aldita, you seemed like you're really engaging with this. I'd love to get your perspective.
Yeah, I quite, resonated with me. So it's not just, it's in every generation, that kind of imposter syndrome. And it hasn't, I'm kind of sad to hear that it's still with the younger generation, because women are amazing. And I agree with what you said. I've witnessed that sort of women kind of being amazing and still not really seeing it. And I guess,
and then going, yeah.
And one way to sort of maybe deal with it is, if you see that in one of your friends or colleagues, or, just point it out, you're amazing. Or, I mean, as you said, Renee, as well, the other end, in terms of, it's okay to be mediocre as well, but sometimes, there is this thing of as you said, look, having all HDs and and still kind of questioning, should I apply? I see that in every sort of, I see that even like at a kind of executive faculty, kind of deans and associate deans, and women kind of really putting so much more effort because I guess they feel they have to, but also there are more barriers, and the barriers become harder the higher up you go, particularly in academia as well. I mean, if you look at the numbers of professors that we have in STEM, it's only 17%. Why? Why so low? So there's two things, supporting each other, but also I see Palash here in the kind of, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but I think we need more champions from male champions, men champions, other champions, sort of, because at the moment I feel most of the work to change it is being done by women. I see this, for instance, in committees about diversity, and it's mainly women trying to change, and that's another burden that women have taken upon themselves. So how do we get more, again, our job to get more male champions, but spreading the word, educating, having this kind of panels, seminars, kind of sharing experiences, so people hear it how it is.
I'd love to pick up on that thread that you mentioned about the different barriers that you face when you get further into your career, and sort of that idea that there is like kind of a ceiling of progression that a lot of women are hitting. Would you like to discuss that a bit more?
And I guess, I don't know, I mean, everybody will choose perhaps a different kind of life direction, but in particular, one thing that I think has an impact on women's career is having children. And you can see here my daughter running. And and I guess maybe this is too early for most of you to think about, but in the future, if you think about it, it's unfortunately still has an impact. That's one thing probably that has an impact on this kind of, one reason why the ceiling exists, because there's so much in this. But that's one of the reasons. And the other one is probably the support networks. I think the higher up you get, networking becomes really important. Kind of knowing the right people. Networking is everything, especially if you want one of those sort of high positions. And there is some research showing that men do it better somehow. It could be, I don't know exactly the reasons, I don't remember, but I think men do it better than us. Probably, maybe they have more time. Women have to maybe do a lot of caring, and but that could be another reason why that ceiling exists. So I would kind of recommend this as, do as much networking, get out there. And often even in networking, we question ourselves: am I good enough to network with you? Am I good enough to come and talk to you? I see this in conferences as well, that we have like this big professor giving a talk, and then after they finish the talk, then there's people can go and ask questions, and it's usually men that go there to kind of have that interaction, and women are like, oh, maybe I shouldn't take the time, they're busy. We again question ourselves. So and I guess I don't want to put too much emphasis on this, because there was this book on Lean In that was written by what was the Facebook, do you know about the book Lean In?
I heard the title. I can't remember who wrote it either. So
it was the Facebook, one of the CTOs, or Cheryl something. I forget her name. So I guess she's moved up the career ladder, and her suggestion was, put yourself out there. So don't hold back. And there was a lot of criticism about this as well, because again, it's putting the burden on women that it's your problem. You know, you're not doing it right. You're not putting yourself out there. So I don't want this to send that kind of message. You know, there's a lot of barriers that are making it harder for. Oh yes, Sharon's handbook. Thank you, Lolita. So that's the book. So she was suggesting that women should just, you know, you might question yourself, but just kind of put, if there's a role, just say I'll do it, or if there's opportunity, say I'm there. And often again, that's another sort of burden for women to say, you know, you should be the one seeking these opportunities, and often these opportunities are harder to achieve for women.
Yeah, just a reminder to everyone that if you have any questions, pop them into the chat. But I'd also, following the thread of the conversation we've been having, Catherine, I'd love to get your insight as well, just about like sort of how your, like, the sort of barriers that you faced later in your career.
Sorry, which aspect you want me to talk a little bit more about? So overcome the barriers?
Yeah, so just sort of, because we've been talking about kind of like the progression ceiling that a lot of women are hitting when they get later into their career. So I'd love to get your perspective on that.
I guess I really resonate with what Ada and Renee mentioned about. There's a couple of key points that, but in addition to their own experience, that for me, I guess that one of the key barriers I have encountered is about probably more, you know, this radical changes of within the family. For example, I don't want to get too emotional, but 3 years ago, I lost my dad, and he's my role model, and he's associate professor, being, you know, start from a lab tester to finally becoming an expert in chemistry, organic chemistry and thermal engineering field. And so that's a long journey for him, but he started learning English when he was in his late 40s. And then he, you know, he have to pass all the required, basically the tests to be able to, you know, also publish in papers and doing lots of research. So to me, that is, you know, I lost him, unfortunately lost a battle to cancer. That's a huge barrier for me. It took me quite a while to recover from that trauma, being that he's like my personal mentor, like my, you know, my inspiration. So I guess I got a lot from lots of support from my PMI, Project Management Institute, my Melbourne chapter. Some of my fantastic friends have been there for me. And so basically I try to, you know, I had a career break. I guess that I started to rethink about what is the purpose in life and all that sort of things. Because I not just lost my dad, I also lost quite a few really good friends. They lost their lives to different kinds of diseases, the majority of them cancer. So that's made me really think about what actually I could do with the rest of my life. So I guess the barrier is sometimes more about your emotional intelligence and how can you overcome those difficult, you know, unfortunately the down the bottom sort of experience. So, and then you can actually pick up get your left back on track again. So this experience taught me a lot. And I can see that, you know, I'm not just a very good carer, because at the time, not my mom also are battling against the cancer, pretty much 1 year apart. And that's really nearly destroyed me, to be honest. And at the time, destroyed me in the sense of I don't know who I am. I lost I pretty much, I thought, oh, even though I'm married with a beautiful boy, but my son was just born. So that's another layer of stress, I guess, that we as women have to manage. I never would have imagined both my parents got cancer. And my dad actually had terminal cancer in last stage. So through that journey, I think I learned a lot about myself. I've actually drawn different sort of things, you know, try to, you know, save their lives and reach out to, you know, Peter Mackel Cancer Council. I even think at one stage of my career totally changed to a medical field. So try to find out. I done about a few months research and finding out what actually medicine can help the prostate cancer patients who actually are very advanced prostate cancer patient to to sustain their lives. So I found this a miracle, not miracle. I think it's a really good product which I bought really expensive, but I actually let friends take back to overseas for my dad to take, and that's really helped. And he actually also with other treatment, his life sustained longer. So I guess through that journey, the trauma, I also discovered my strengths. So which, I sort of taken different direction approach of rather than working in corporate, I feel like I want to find a stronger meaning and identify myself as what is a value moving forward. And also, what happened in the last year, the pandemic, that make a lot of people really rethink about redesign their career. So one key thing I came out of this because there are lots of really valuable seminars I attended to through PMI Melbourne chapter. One of the founder I remember called Alison Sanders and Nikki, they talk about, also Dr. Kate Richardson. They really taught me how as women, I can possibly redesign my career. Then, I can possibly have multiple jobs, which I can draw on my experience and expertise. And then I don't have to get really just one single job and work like, routine hours. So you can really think about really big to find out your own bearings. Your own bearings can be another stepstone. What you're currently doing now will be really in an agile manner. Then you can actually find out what is next, your inspirations are, and you can get on with your life. So I guess I'm like a phoenix reborn. So resonate myself from really feeling like being totally lost to, getting slowly back to this. And then, finding really, that's why I love the teaching, I guess, it's so much, because I feel, when I talk, I feel I feel like the strong connection with the students. I feel they are inspired. And also the energy they bring to, the good attitude, the good learning drive. I feel this is what that's defined me, aligns with my value for my career. And then even though, there are other factors, could be monetary wise, may not be even thinkable compared to corporate world job. But you know what? I think I had one of the most wonderful feelings I ever felt. So this is something I guess I wanted to share with all of you, including the panel members. I guess not everyone probably in your life might having here and there some difficulties. I guess the key message is about, improve our resilience, and then try to overcome the obstacles at one stage in your life. And then you can still, rise up and then become the best version of yourself.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
I'm being a little bit emotional.
No, I think that was more than appropriate for everything that you just shared with us. I really, really appreciate that. And I think that that's probably a good time to take us to the breakout rooms so that we can all have a little bit of a one-on-one chat. And obviously there's been a lot of really, really interesting threads discussed here, so make sure to follow those up. So I'll give you a little bit of a brief overview on how those are going to work. So there'll be 3 breakout rooms, and you'll have about 10 minutes with the panelists, and you'll get a 1-minute warning. And after that 1 minute, the panelists will be moved to the next room. So just in that 1 minute, making sure that you're trying not to be like in the middle of a question or a sentence or anything like that. So we'll just go ahead and open a second. Okay, have we got everyone back now? Yeah. Okay, brilliant. So that is everything. That brings us to the close of this evening. I would like to start by just thanking our panelists again. So Aldida, Catherine, and Renee for their insights and just being so generous with their time. I think we can all say we've learned so much, and it's been very, very valuable. So just thank you everybody. And then to our guests, thank you so much for attending. We really hope that you enjoyed this evening. And we would love to hear your feedback. So we do have a survey. We'll link it out in the chat, but it'll also be sent out to you via email. In that email, there will also be some links to some further information about intersectionality. If any of these conversations really piqued your interest in that area, that'll be coming through to you as well. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. You can join our Discord, and that will help you keep up with the rest of things that we put out, and also keep in touch with each other, which is really important. So in addition to all of that, we also run our Coffee with Diverse IT initiative throughout the semester. So you can schedule a time to meet personally with a committee member. So if you liked what we did here, check out our member profiles and you can come and pick our brains about absolutely anything. But that is all from us. Thank you so much for attending, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.